what I want to do is talk a little bit about me, and a lot of the members of the community know me, but hopefully I'll share some things. Russell's put a typo in there on purpose, I think. He's got the Stephen habit. So I don't know who Stephen is, but apparently that's meant to be 7. Russ, what's going on? I want to talk about potentially getting help. I want to talk about taking actions, and then I'm happy to answer any comments. So a little bit about me. I'm Chris. I'm a dad. That's the most important job in the world, because everything I do, both professionally and personally, is about being a good role model to my 2 girls who are 17 and 9. I am a dad, but I am the worst homeschooling dad in the world. So it's lucky I'm a pretty decent financial planner. I run a business called Savello, as you know. We've been in an independent practice now for the last 11 years. We've grown throughout that time, and now we look after about 250 to 300 private and corporate clients, mostly in the southeast. I'm a chartered financial planner, and Savello is a chartered financial planning firm. We're the only chartered financial planning firm in Havering. There's a handful of chartered financial planners. And for the majority of East London, when you get to the city, there's a few more firms, but there's not that many in East London. I think there's one in Ilford. So we've worked really hard on our own personal and professional development to get to a point where we can use that badge and support our clients with the knowledge and skills that we've developed over that time. But my day job is working with clients, and the majority of the time I spend working with clients is with people who have reached a point in their lives where they've built wealth and are thinking about what's next. The last year has really seen a level of growth in that area. So we've been having loads of conversations where people want to make a transition in their life and think about what's next. Now, I'm always I always get a bit funny when people tell me how brilliant their business is, because I think, sure, you're going to say that. And it was funny because I was wondering about the best way to, oh, sorry, I run Havering Means Business as well. I forgot about that bit. But you know that already because you're here. So I, as I said, I always feel a bit funny about telling people how good we are, because I think the best advocates for our business are always our clients. And funny enough, on Facebook yesterday, Havering Chamber of Commerce profiled Savello as their member of the month. And one of my clients put this comment up. Chris and his team have been looking after me for the past 4 years, and they've been amazing. Feel secure in the knowledge that my finances are being managed excellently. And very nice people. They're speaking about Cassie as opposed to me, clearly, and an absolute pleasure to be with. And that, to me, is why I get out of bed in the morning. If I can help people sleep better at night, making sure that we look after them financially, that's what I want to do. So let's explore some of the things that we help our clients with, and what we support them with to make sure that they achieve their version of financial independence. Often when people originally come to see us, they come to see us with a very direct reason. I want to get financially organised. I've got pensions and investments I want to sort out. I don't think my money is appropriately invested, and I'm confused. I want some clarity in terms of where we are. When we sit down and really understand what that individual's about, the question changes. And the question fundamentally for most people is, have I got enough? Have I got enough money to make sure that I'm never going to run out? Have I got enough money to make sure my family are going to be okay if I'm not around? Have I got enough money, because I've worked hard all of my life, but I want to start thinking about reducing my inheritance tax liability? And have I got some money, and this is most of the conversations I've been having over the last year, to make some fundamental changes in my life? We've seen, a decent number of people over the past year really think about what their future looks like and want to get super clear on where they are financially so they can make some of those fundamental changes. And what we do is give them the clarity financially to be able to make some of those changes. But one of the conversations we always have with clients is we can get clear on where you are financially, do all the technical elements, and effectively work out the most tax efficient way of achieving a goal. But we also have a conversation about life. And enough isn't always about money. Enough is often, in our experience, about time. If you've achieved a level of financial independence, what does the future look like for you, and how are you going to spend that time? Because if we don't know about how you're going to spend that time, we can't backwards engineer the financial side. Fundamentally, for me and for the conversations I have with my clients, it's about choice. You know, it used to be years and years ago when I first started my career, a conversation about retirement. And retirement for a lot of our clients now is a bit of an outdated concept, because people actually now want lives where they are spending time doing things they love, and that might include work. Our job is to make work optional. So the question we ask clients is, if we were to get you to a point where work was optional, what would that look like, and how would you spend your time, so that they've got the choices to the choice to do that. And the question that we ask, and it's quite a direct one, but one that's quite powerful, is if you knew you only had a year to live, or a month to live, or a day to live, how would you choose to spend this time? And that gives us an indication of what they'd actually spend their time doing and what's valuable really in their lives, because that then allows us to get them to a point where they can choose to do more of that. But if I asked you a question about what the next 30 years look like, it's really difficult to answer that question. And we try and give and empower our clients with tools and questions to think about how they might do this. And one of the books that we really like is a book by Bill Burnett called Life by Design, that talks about conversations we can have with our clients, and you can think about what the future of your life looks like. And one of the tools we use is this one. So when we speak to clients, we talk about, what does plan A look like? If everything goes to plan in your life, financially and otherwise, what would be your ideal future? What does plan B look like? If everything went wrong, what would you do? And what would you be happy and comfortable with? And my own personal favourite, the wild card. And the two questions there are, if money was no object, if you knew you weren't going to run out of money again, and you knew nobody would laugh, how would you spend your life and your time? Now, a lot of our clients might want to start thinking about financial independence and how that looks like for them independently of us. So what I wanted to do today in the community is share something that's going to be really useful. You may not think you're ready to see a financial advisor or planner yet, but allows you to work out what your number is, the amount of money you'll need to achieve financial independence. There's a really good book on this called The Number by Lee Eisenberg, definitely worth picking up because it thinks about achieving that level of financial independence for you. And there's a rule in that book called the 4% rule. And that talks about the amount of income you think you're going to need to be financially independent. Work that out, divide that figure by 4, multiply it by 100, and that's a quick way of knowing whether you've got enough wealth in terms of achieving financial independence. Now, don't worry if you're not there yet. Most people we speak to aren't, but that will show you where you are and work out the gap. One thing on that, it's a very, very broad stroke way of doing it. We do it in a far more nuanced way when we sit down with clients, but certainly it gives you a bit of an indication to where you are and where you need to get to. One thing that we've learned from clients and we recommend to clients is automation. What can you do? And there's, again, really good book on this called The Automatic Millionaire by David Back. I've got a really good story about this. My first job was working for the Woolwich Building Society in East Ham in East London. I had a financial advisor who worked in my branch called June, who, when I was 18, I went to the branch manager of the Woolwich in East Ham and said, you know what, I'm not going to pay into the pension because that 50 quid that I'm putting into the pension, I can spend in the pub on a Friday night. And that was my priority when I was 18 and 19. Not anymore, now I'm a bit older, but that was a priority. And the lady who was running the branch at the minute said, look, you can do that, but you need to go and have a chat with June first. So I was marched into June's office and I said to June, look, June, I'm going to cancel the pension because I want the 50 quid and I'm not thinking about pensions at this part. And she just stood there, and she was about half my size. She stood there and said, you're not doing that. I'm not going to let you do that. And that pension is now going to sort of generate a third of my income when I decide to achieve a level of financial independence, just through a conversation where, you know, it came out of a bank account. I didn't miss it. I still went to the pub. It was automated and it came out every time. And there's a few tips that can use to automate your money and make it more efficient. Use pots. You know, if you're a business owner, have a tax pot, have a spend pot, have a marketing pot, use pots of money. I find that a really good way. When it comes to longer term saving, definitely use direct debits. And what I do is my pension contribution automatically goes up by 10% a year. So I make sure that the pension company knows that, you know, it's automated, it's a no-brainer, it happens. And start small. You know, if you're not saving longer term, do something and then look at slowly improving it. Tip number 4 is most of my financially independent clients make money work for them. And effectively, what we find is that the ones that do it really well understand the power of compounding. So that's £100 contribution, the red line. The blue line is the interest or the growth on £100 contribution. The yellow line, which is the big line, the line that generates all the growth, is the interest on the interest. So you get growth on the growth on an investment, and that has the biggest impact. Over the longer term, that's where the majority of your route to financial independence is going to be solved. If it's sitting in the bank, particularly with low interest rates, you're not going to get that growth or the growth on the growth. And that's the difference. That's what makes your journey to financial independence easier. However, you also need to be comfortable with risk when you invest. So the first question that we answer for a lot of clients is why invest? And Terry's going to love this because we did start with Freddo's to explain inflation, Terry, but we took your tip and went for Big Macs eventually. So open forum on this one. A Big Mac in 1980 cost 89p. How much do you think a Big Mac costs now?
£3.49.
£3.49. Good one. Anybody else?
£5.90.
£5. Okay,
that's a meal deal.
I wasn't including the chips, Steve, but whatever you want, mate. Anybody else? One more guess.
£3.79.
£3.79. Okay, it's actually £3.89. I think, Carol, you've seen me do this before, but £3.89. And you were 10p out, so it's not bad. But the reason we mention that is because the reason we invest and don't just let the money sit passively is because we need to make sure that we're getting growth that counteracts the cost of inflation. You know, the cost of living is growing, is going up year in, year out. You've got a 300+% level of growth in the cost of Big Macs over that period of time. We need to make sure that if you want this money to give you the lifestyle you want when you've got that financial independence, we get the growth with it. But investing comes with risks. That's a 120-year view of the stock market. As you can see, the red lines are when it goes up, and the black lines are when it goes down, typically every 10 to 15 years. The last black line we had was this time last year. And I said to all of my clients, we're not doing anything because this too shall pass. And actually, we're sitting on this year where that's gone on. And the value certainly sometimes we add as financial planners is to say to our clients, do nothing when their emotions are screaming at them, panic. Our job is to make sure they don't. And what we do is put those ups and downs into perspective by showing them things like this and showing them, yes, the markets do go down, but over the longer term, and this is what we're interested in, markets go up. But you need to invest at a level you feel comfortable. And certainly, you know, you can take more or less risk when you invest. You can go for the speedboat route and go, you know, this might be a potential quicker route to my destination, but a bit bumpier. Or you can go for the cruise ship route, which is a little bit smoother, a little bit slower, still gets me there, but just takes a bit longer, depending on how you emotionally feel about risk. I would say this, wouldn't I? But a lot of financially successful people, in my experience, ask for help. Now, I'm a fan at the minute of this book. It's a amazingly illustrated book. Have a look at it. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. It's a lovely book to read, full of wisdom and knowledge, and I've loved. And one of my favourite pages in it is, what's the bravest thing you've ever said? Asked the boy. Help, said the horse. Because we know that asking help is hard, right? You know, particularly when, you know, you come to somebody like me, and my job is to listen to your life story and you tell me everything you own. You know, I get how difficult that is. But sometimes, particularly if you're in a period of transition, it's really important to ask for help. But bear in mind that before you come and see a financial planner, there's plenty of free help out there as well. You've got the Money Advice Service. You've got the Citizens Advice. My friend, about 10 years ago, there's a guy called Pete Matthew, runs a website and YouTube channel called Meaningful Money. The content on there is amazing. So if you're at the start of that financial independence journey, or you feel that you don't need financial advice at the moment, but want to get educated first, check out Meaningful Money, because there's hours and hours of content. It's amazing stuff. And then eventually, when you get to a point where you feel you need advice, there's plenty of good financial planners and advisors out there. I think you need to, when you pick a financial planner or advisor, have somebody you know, like and trust. Our relationship with our clients tends to be for decades. So you've got to work with somebody you know, like and trust when you're picking somebody. I'd always suggest that the priority for working with a financial planner is they talk about products after they understand what you want to achieve as a goal. You know, the product is just the vehicle for you to get to your destination. That's all it is. So do they understand enough about what you're looking to achieve? Are they focused on your plan as opposed to just a product that might fit? You know, pick somebody that's plan focused, not product focused. Are they qualified and to what level? You know, I always think that sort of people who invest in their own personal development and continue to are the ones that you want to work with. And do they need an advisor? You know, we've had a lot of people walk through the doors of Savello this year. Probably about 30% of them, we've said to them, we don't add enough value to validate our fees. So we've helped them, we've had an hour's conversation with them, and we've declined taking them on as clients because we think they don't need us at that point. So do they need, or can they afford a relationship with an advisor? And one of my favourite clients is a lady, ex-HR manager of ICI. She's in her early 80s now, and we've looked after her for 9 years. And I'll go along for the review meeting. And the question she asks me every year, really bluntly, is, what do I pay you for again? Does your financial planner and advisor add value? And you want to work with somebody who's going to be consistently doing that, even if it is just for the reassurance stuff and knowing that they're at the end of the line and that sort of good stuff. But But working with a financial planner, we think can add value because they give you clarity in terms of where you're going and make sure you're on track. They help you with the technical side, you know, invest appropriately, save tax, work out what the right product is. Anybody who knows me knows that I like to delegate. And I work with busy people. My clients are busy, successful people on the whole. And in my life, I like to delegate stuff both to my team, but also to professionals who can support me and my clients to live the life I want. Working with a financial planner allows you to delegate because you're saying to somebody, I'm going to partner with you, give you the trust and responsibility to support you and work really well on that. But what we also do for our clients is nudge them in the right direction. You know, if we're busy, sometimes our longer term strategic financial plans get lost in the mix and we wake up going, I wish I would have sorted that 5 years ago. So our job as professionals is to make sure that we keep somebody on track. Again, can't guarantee that we'll take every single client on because we only take clients on when we add value, but we're always open to a conversation, particularly with members of the HMB community about how we might be able to help. And we typically, when I put this on the HMB community, I'll add a link to see if you wanted to chat to see whether we can help. Now, weirdly, I was quite nervous there because this is my little tribe. So how was that? Was that all right?
Yeah.
Good, brilliant, good stuff. Any questions?
Yeah, I got.
Terry, tell me.
So, I love that number, okay? Like the take the number divided by 4 and then multiply it by 100. And I did a quick calculation. I'm like, whoops.
Well, I mean, bear in mind, Terry, that number's always going to be big, okay? Because what it doesn't take into account is the elements of income you've already got. So you might have.
My question to you is, do you have to make people sit back and reassess that number? So, because one of the things I've had discussions about in the past is that the number you need now is going to drop because you're not going to spend as much in your 80s as you are in your 60s.
Great question. So we use a tool called cash flow that effectively allows us to change the number you need, the income you need throughout your life.
Right.
Now, in our experience, when we have a conversation with the client initially, a lot of that, the sort of income they're going to need is probably going to be higher in the early years of financial independence because they've got more time and they've still got the fitness to go and live their life and travel and do that sort of stuff. And then it probably tapers down over time as they get a bit older. The 4% calculation doesn't account for any of that, but our software, when the client works with us, does.
Right.
So we can, if somebody says, you know, tell us the life you want to live, we'll build a bespoke financial plan based on what they tell us. The only challenge I've got about reducing the income in your 80s, and we build that, is when we're thinking about longer term financial plans, we always need to think about the cost of care. Because once that kicks in, a financial plan gets really expensive.
Right.
But really good question, mate. And 4% is to go, where am I? And to sort of spark a bit more of a debate, but we'd do it in a bit more of a nuanced way.
Right.